So here at TRS, we get tons of samples in the mail almost on a weekly basis of all kinds of product that's being developed overseas for people that want us to distribute their stuff, check out new things all the time. Over the last few months, we've actually collected a pretty wide variety of bi-LED projectors that have came out in 2017 alone. It's pretty shocking to see how much concentration and focus there has been on development of LED-based projectors in recent times. What we wanted to do was just kind of give you like a little bit of an overview and a comparison of all these different LED projectors that have come out. We have the Morimoto, the bi-LED projector here, the Profile bi-lens LED, and we also have a few OEMs over here. One is from Osram, their bi-LED driving light, and we also have the well-known Koito bi-LED, which was really kind of like the industry standard when it first came out. In addition to that, we've got a Q5R projector over here, which is kind of like the sort of reigning hotspot king right now. But this one is not an LED projector. We have it powered with a Profile Peak D2H LED bulb, so we'll show you that just for comparison's sake. And then over here on the far right, we have a pretty cool multi-lens projector, which is really designed as just a spotlight or a high beam projector only. And we're going to throw that in the mix. There's been a ton of conversation lately about hotspots and really, how to judge projectors' performance, especially if you're considering an LED projector for your retrofit. LED projectors are great. They really do have very strong hotspots, especially compared to HID, but a lot of them lack in other parts of the performance arena, such as width or other parts of the beam pattern that are also important in your ability to see while driving at night. So we're going to throw that hotspot into the comparison, and we'll show you just how these projectors distribute the light compared to their more mature technology that's found in the HID projectors, which have been, of course, industry standard forever, as long as we've been doing this. So what we'll do is we'll go through each of these one by one. We're going to light them up. We'll show you the different beam pattern that's produced by each of them, and just kind of go down the line so you can check them all out and see how they fare. All right, so the first one that we got here on the table is just one of these samples that was sent to us from a manufacturer overseas. There's really nothing that special about it. It kind of has some fancy looking optics package, but overall, the whole thing feels dirt cheap. It's all made of plastic. It's not really going to be easy to install. There's no threaded shaft. Really cheap, like computer type fan on here, and really no thought given as far as the wiring goes. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this one on our beam wall first. You can check out the beam pattern, come to your own conclusion there. And with each projector that we light up after this one, we'll show you the luminosity or the lux in the center of the beam, just so that you can see for comparison's sake how they compare in terms of the overall intensity at the center of the beam. All right, moving right along here, the next one, again, a 3-inch lens, is plastic blue frame. You guys might have seen this stuff out there floating around. Really horrible design. The back of it is just massive, unnecessarily big. Slightly larger fan than some of the other ones. Looks like it uses the standard 4.0 bolt pattern. The cutoff shield inside is basically the same as you would see in an old school Mini H1, so it uses this vertical pull mechanism here for that, and actually it's like already sticking as I'm holding it. Also looks like it's using some kind of Coke can for a cutoff shield, so overall big piece of crap. Nice thing about this one is that it does not have an external driver, so that seems convenient, but as you can see, when we light this one up here in a minute, the output is just garbage. Last but not least, for our basic projectors that we've gotten from China as samples, is this one. This one has been around for a little while. We've seen it rebranded on a handful of other websites. It has a threaded mounting shaft that makes it a little bit easier to install. It's fairly compact. Again, uses a Mini H1 type solenoid. It's all mostly plastic and pretty cheap. External driver, and a plastic generic ballast box here. Again, nothing that's going to impress you when you light it up. This thing, performance-wise, is almost the same as putting an HID bulb or an LED bulb into an HID projector and expecting it to work well, and you'll see just how bad it is, how much it's lacking in width when we light this guy up here in a second too. So I can't lie, this is another projector that we've seen come from overseas, and like I said, I can't lie. These things do look really cool. They have a really flat and unique shaped optic that's built into it with an auxiliary reflector on the bottom that's for a dedicated high beam. And they have all kinds of adjustability and whatnot that's actually built into the rear half of this, which can help you fine tune the aim once the projector is already mounted. terms of mounting itself, again, definitely going to be something for a more advanced retrofitter since there's no threaded shaft on this projector. You only have the 4 mounting points in the middle of the body. You know, the other disadvantage really of this design is that once it's in your headlight, you cannot put any other shroud on this projector just because of the way it's designed, you know, atypically. So you really have to find some kind of way to cover that whole back half of the projector once it's retrofitted. But definitely pretty cool looking. And, you know, although it's not the brightest projector in the lineup, really the light output's not half bad. So you'll see this one here in just a minute. And, you know, I think we're pretty impressed. We might actually consider offering this thing next year. It's pretty neat. Of course, the MLED, you know, we've been selling this for about 3 months now. It came out in the early fall 2017, and we're very happy with this projector from Morimoto. I mean, it's pretty well thought out. It's one of the brightest projectors in the lineup. It's very convenient to use because it has a threaded mounting shaft, which can be removed in case you do want to mount it with the mounting points using one of the Retrofit brackets or, you know, a more advanced technique. So you can get rid of that threaded mounting shaft for convenience. It's one of the only projectors that has the heatsink on the bottom, the fan on the bottom instead of on the back. And the driver is probably the best of any of them in terms of the wiring and the ease of use with the 9006 connections, the braided mesh, all very solid. You know, there's been some complaints about the width of this projector, you know, but we feel that the light is very well distributed throughout the beam pattern and it actually is fairly usable in that regard. Morimoto has been working on an updated version of the optics for this projector to maintain that pole position with the high intensity in the center, but also increase the usable width of the projector, which would really make it best of both worlds. But again, a really popular projector already, proven reliable, and you know, a great low beam and high beam output as is. Here we have the Profile Bi-Lens LED projector. This is made by Yaiki or CN Light. It's very similar to the iLens projector, shares really most features. And it's a good projector, there's no doubt about it. You know, it actually has a pretty decent width. The hotspot compared to something like an MLED is not quite as bright. In fact, some of the other projectors in this comparison are brighter than this one. But overall, it's a good projector. I mean, well constructed, die cast, nice fan in the bottom, threaded mounting shaft for convenience. Again, the 4.0 standard for the mounting shield here in the middle, and a standard 3-inch lens, which can accept all shrouds like the MLED, but unlike a lot of the other projectors here too. Uses a mini H1 type solenoid, old school mini H1 type solenoid, which really we don't like. You know, Morimoto got away from this on projectors like the 7.0 because of the unreliability going to low and high beam, you know, and some potential stickage, if you will. So we're not really sure why they've chosen to use that on this projector, but I would say, if anything, you know, that's really the biggest downside. Otherwise, it is a fairly nice unit. This is the Osram LED driving bi-LED projector. This thing is pretty unique because it's the first entry from a major OEM manufacturer into the projector retrofitting market. So it's actually pretty unique to see something like this out there for us retrofitters. You know, I mean, the quality is definitely stand out. It's all very well done. You can tell that you know, it's a well thought out design with some precision parts. The lens is really neat because it has the word, you know, Osram label in the center of it, which is really cool looking. Doesn't really serve much function, but very neat. Removable mounting points here on the center body of the projector. I would say the biggest downside of this thing is the sheer size of it. It's just massive when you consider the size of the body itself, as well as the fan, the heatsink that's on the back. It's just freaking huge. Supposedly you can relocate this or remove it. We haven't really seen it done, but we've seen documentation that insinuates that, but we're not really sure. And you know, really not many people have chosen to use this projector so far, so it doesn't really have much of a proven track record. And the light output, from what we can see, is really just so-so, relatively speaking. So check that one out here in a second too. So now we're looking at the Koito Bi-LED. Again, as I mentioned when we opened up the video, this was really like the first entry into the Bi-LED market for retrofitters. You know, it became commercially available out of the headlights in a lot of modern Toyota and Lexus vehicles. And still to this day, I mean, it's a really solid performer. You really don't see many people using them, you know, because there's not really much convenience in terms of well, using it or retrofitting it. I mean, it has a massive heat sink. It's an awkward size and shape, really. You know, you can tune these projectors with an aftermarket clear lens like a ZKW for a little bit more performance, but you know, overall, I mean, it's still a great projector. You know, it just has kind of fallen by the wayside with the advent of a lot of other projectors that have come out, you know, and have been more focused on the function for retrofitting. So Koito by LED, you know, still a solid op. So right here we have the G5R projectors, the Acme G5Rs. These projectors have gotten more popular in recent times because they have an awesome hotspot, no doubt about it. The overall distribution of light is pretty solid, but what we're doing here, just for comparison's sake, is we've loaded this one with an LED-based bulb, just so that you can see that, you know, an LED projector is vastly different than an HID projector or a halogen projector with an LED bulb in it. It doesn't quite equate to the same thing because the optics were not designed for the LEDs. That's very important in being able to actually create a usable light output from the projector. So we just have the one there for comparison's sake. And last but not least, we have this little guy, which is pretty neat. This is a 7-lens kind of Q45R type projector that will be released under the Profile brand in early 2018. And this projector is really cool because you can actually mount a full-size shroud to it. It's a standard 3-inch diameter and has the little clips for the shroud. Threaded mounting shaft, of course, for all the lazy retrofitters out there. So very easy to install. And it also has an integrated white LED daytime running light in addition to the standard high beam function. So unlike all of the others, this is not a bi-LED projector. It is only designed for a high beam, and it has an integrated daytime running light. But we just thought we'd throw it in the mix just for comparison's sake. In conclusion, you know, as you can see, there's quite a wide variety of LED projectors that are already out there on the market. Some of which are certainly well designed, some of which are pretty poor designs. You know, you can see that in our comparison on the wall. Some of the high beam solenoids didn't even work on some of these cheaper bi-xenon or bi-LED projectors that were sent to us. I did really like the light output from this projector. Although the intensity was only about half of what the MLED had, it did have a really nice distribution of light in the proper hotspot, really nice cutoff line. The MLED is obviously overall a solid projector, you know, really bright hotspot, the brightest hotspot out of all of them, and a good distribution throughout the rest of the beam pattern. Profile projector, very nice. You know, the light output is a little bit warmer than I would personally like for an LED-based projector. It's more of like a 4000K, whereas everything else in the lineup was closer to a 55 or even a 6000K, which a lot of our customers tend to prefer. The Osram bi-LED is kind of cool because even though the low beam light output is very nice and cool, what makes this projector unique is that it actually uses a separate LED for the high beam. And that LED is a lower Kelvin rating compared to the low beam. You know, some people might think that that looks kind of crappy on camera and looks kind of weird. Why did they do that? But it's actually pretty smart because it makes the high beam function more useful when you're driving in inclement weather, since lower Kelvin ratings, that warmer light, will actually penetrate through particles in the air, such as fog, snow, or rain, more effectively than the cooler light of the low beam would. So it's actually a pretty neat design that they have there. The last one that I want to point out is the Koito bi-LED. And this one, unlike a lot of the other projectors, is still a great projector. And Koito really carries that through a lot of the projectors, whether LED or HID, in that the hotspot itself is great, but they carry a lot of that intensity throughout the width of the beam pattern. So it's not just bright light right in the middle of the beam pattern. Even though we only showed you the lux in the center of the beam pattern, again, I cannot stress how important it is to consider other parts of the beam in terms of the actual overall performance of the projector. You know, if you only consider the intensity in the middle, you would consider this one, the high beam projector, a great projector just as well as any of the others because its intensity was right up there with them. But fact is that it has no width or no useful light elsewhere for you. So definitely something to think about. A lot of LED projectors out there, a lot of new ones coming out, but it's important to you know, consider your shopping decision on, you know, ease of install, reliability, and the light output, the distribution of the light throughout the rest of the beam pattern. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the little comparo, and Happy New Year to everybody. We'll catch y'all next year. Over here we have the Q5R projectors, which are kind of, like I said earlier, the current king of the totem pole. What the fuck am I talking about? I'm gonna have to